Alright guys, and welcome to the 28th episode of Below the Bar.
In this episode, expect to find out how to orchestrate the perfect date, why being open and honest about your relationship history can be constructive,
And what happens when you get caught mid-intercourse by a fire drill on a military base.
Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to this special and long overdue relationship and dating episode of Below the Bar.
As dating experts, we feel well placed to give our sort of cast aspersions around dating and relationships.
Yeah, it's gonna come to the fore quite quickly that we are definitely not experts in this field.
Yeah, as two single men.
Yeah, literally. I'm a dating Walt.
Yeah, but basically dating virgin, not an actual virgin. This is the first episode we've done in a while between the two of us. There's actually been prepared for.
Yeah, and by prepared we mean Eddie's done some notes again.
Yeah, exactly. We're back with the notes.
I took some annual leave from note making, but there is a structure to this podcast, so it shouldn't be as free flowing as perhaps other ones have been.
Yeah,
recently.
the last one or two have been a bit free, haven't they? But I mean, we're back in now. So, should we get straight in?
Yeah. So should we run them? Should we need to do some brief housekeeping? Given that
As always, we need to do some dating admin.
Yeah. Okay. So we've already caveated the fact that we are by no means experts. So.
Yeah.
Please don't take this advice literally, because there is probably going to be quite a lot of sarcasm sprinkled in at various points.
As you might imagine.
I will try and stay serious, but ultimately it will get silly.
That's not your strong suit,
No,
is it, really?
Maurice, his attention span is depleted on this Friday afternoon.
True. Well, it's Friday afternoon as well.
But I'll be on my best behaviour to try and give you some solid dating advice. But
solid takeaways today.
But yeah, so we're basically going to break the podcast up into two sections.
Also, before we start, I sometimes get asked as well on my questions, on my stories, right, about like dating advice, as if I'm some sort of Jay Shetty as like a guru.
Well, if only they knew.
Well, that's what I mean. So if any of those people are listening to this podcast, they'll now quickly find out they're asking the wrong person.
Yeah. Well, we'll clear that up because it means that they don't have to ask you that question in the future.
Fantastic.
So section 1 is going to be called Knock It Down, and we're basically going to unpack our own relationship history and kind of input some theory onto it to try and deconstruct it.
Yeah, like a therapy session almost.
Yeah, we're going to
You're now privy to our sort of therapy session.
We're going to get vulnerable. We're all going to get vulnerable together.
Like a Stephen Bartlett podcast.
Naked and vulnerable.
Naked Bart. What?
And then section 2, we're going to then build it back up again and kind of back and forth what we think are good dating habits and what makes good relationship.
Yeah, so a bit more somber in the first half and then bring the energy back up on a high for the next bit.
Yes.
Cool. Sounds good.
We should say as well, this podcast is fueled by New Tonic.
Yeah,
which is James Smith's and Chris Williamson's new
venture.
Not energy drink, productivity drink.
So it's pretty cool can, as we can see.
Yeah.
This is Eddie's first exposure to the drink. It
tastes alright, to be fair.
It does taste good. It is good. I've had about 4, I think, over the last week. I ordered it on
4
Monday.
a day.
Yeah, 4 a day. Yeah, fucking just wired the entire time. No, but it should be good. So really, this should be our best podcast to date. If James Smith's anything to go by,
which we know he isn't.
This should be our best,
there's
sharpest
there's
podcast.
The sponsorship down the toilet.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say this podcast is sponsored by, which it isn't. So
New Tonic.
I wish.
Because you're a rap hand.
Yeah. Are you a rap band?
So without further ado, should we do Helmet of the Week?
Let's do it.
Helmet of the Week. So you're not privy to this Helmet of the Week, are you? This is a special.
No, normally we come up with them together, but I've let Eddie go for this one.
This is a special relationship and dating themed Helmet of the Week from history.
Okay.
So I took a look back through history and thought, who is a bad example of dating and relationships? And I landed on Josef Fritzl.
He could have been Helmet of the Week on any given day.
Yeah, well,
he really?
he's a serial offender, put it that way.
Well, literally, yeah. And sexual offender.
Where should we start with this one?
I don't know.
Well, theoretically, he's the second most evil man to come out of Austria of all time. The first one being Hitler.
Yeah, but thanks for clearing that up.
If anyone get.
So if anyone doesn't know who Josef Fritzl is,
the thing is, though,
he's a bit of Fritzl admin.
I feel like it's quite dated now. and we actually have quite a lot of listeners who are younger than us.
When was it? Have you got the stats?
So he got caught in 2008.
Okay.
So that is. I feel like he's never in the news anymore now. He's still alive.
Is he?
He's like 88. Yeah.
Has he got another basement kicking around?
That's why you don't know where he's
working now.
Yeah. He's doing community service on the. Yeah. So do you want to unpack him, or should I?
Well, honestly, so 2008. I was very, very young. I only really literally heard about him through stand-up comedy, and then like backdated my research almost, and sort of found out about it. And then it sort of came to the fore. But yeah, literally, I think it was like a Frankie Boyle set or something. He was like talking about this guy. I was like, the fuck's that? Anyway, I don't know the exact details, but effectively he kept his family, so his wife and daughters, captive in his basement.
No, it was just his daughter.
Years, just his daughter.
Yeah.
One daughter.
Yeah.
Really?
So he had like 5 kids, but he only kept the one girl.
That's mental.
Captive. So basically, I've tried to summarise it to save us waffling. So he held his daughter captive in the basement of the family home for 24 years, assaulted her, sexually abused her, and raped her continually, which resulted in the birth of 7 children.
So where were the other children?
Well, we got to clearly distinguish here because he's shagging his own daughter.
Where are his daughter's children now? They in the basement as well.
So some of them
running around the basement.
No, so this is why it gets mental, right? So initially, when he said that his daughter went missing and went to join a cult. Right. That's how he managed to get it past the authorities.
Okay.
When obviously, actually, she's in this secret bunker that he's built in the basement.
Mm.
So then, when he started putting sprogs in her, they were born, and some of them remained subterranean, but then some of them came up to the surface.
So what happened with the surface level sprogs?
So he told the authorities that his daughter, who was in this cult, had like sent them to grow up with their grandparents and just like dropped them on the doorstep.
Mate.
And that cleared the authorities.
Lad, so
there's a lot to unpack here.
So if you ignore how horrendous and twisted it is, right?
Intrusive thought number 1.
It's unbelievable. His skill set, right, in terms of whatever, but
he's a psychopath, isn't he?
Yeah. But if he'd have like channeled those skills into something productive,
what, like mechanical engineering or something?
Mate, he's managed to build a fucking bunker.
Yeah.
To have another family without his fucking missus upstairs finding out, and then he's managed to be as good a salesman as he needs to be to sell the fact that his daughter is not even there, and the kids that she's sending back aren't just underground. It's insane.
It is mental. So he eventually got caught because these kids, obviously being subterranean, never had daylight, and obviously they were like the product of incest. So the health was never going to be great anyway. So I think one of them ended up with like kidney failure or something, so it had to go to hospital.
Right.
And then it rocked up at like A&E, and like there were no records of this kid anywhere on Earth. So like, what's going on here? And then I think it all unravelled.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay. That's mental. But 24 years as well.
That is mental.
That
I think
is
apparently
insane. That's how old we are, pretty much.
Yeah, I think he put her down there in like 1984 or something.
That is ridiculous, you know. Like, what the fuck? So there's not been a case like that where it's that prolonged.
This is what I mean. How is this still not like in the public domain?
There should be a Netflix about that, surely.
There has to be. I mean, it is very sensitive. But
yeah,
they make a fucking Netflix series about everything else, don't they?
Well, they can make it in a sensitive manner. I mean, it's not like you say, they make it about like Ted Bundy and all the rest of them. So, was his daughter, did she die or not?
No, I think they're all still. So he's still alive. His missus is dead. I think she died in like 2012. But how was she not in on this? How did she? She can't play ignorant. She must have known.
But obviously not.
That's mental.
Well, not necessarily, really. Because I mean, blokes cheat on their missus all the time, right? Which is it's just the same level of lying, but he's just done it, just taken it to the nth degree.
Yeah, but he would disappear into the basement for hours on end every day. How is she not, on like the odd occasion, gone down to like ask him what he wants for his tea, realise that he's not there,
yeah,
and
in 24 years,
and he's actually not, and he's actually built like a secret fucking.
And where did she think the daughter went? To a cult?
This is what yeah.
What? Mate, this is mental.
This does not reflect very well on the Austrian authorities, does it?
What needs to happen, right, is they needed a Netflix doco on this while he's still fucking kicking about, because then you can interview.
Well, that would be a scoop. That would.
Yeah.
So he obviously.
You want to hear about that, surely?
Yeah. So he obviously got life imprisonment. Like he's never gonna leave jail.
Yeah.
But he's like 88 now. He's still alive.
Yeah, that's mad. That needs to be swept up because it's so interesting. As obviously as fucked as it is, but it's just so interesting. And so before he creams in, effectively, we need to hear it because it's mental. The daughter really fascinates me. The fact that she's still alive. That right, isn't it?
Yeah. So I assume that like her and then all of her sprogs are just in like witness protection now, under like false aliases. Like they're just living separate lives somewhere.
I wonder if she got what's the fucking word for it now? Where you fall in love with your captor?
Are you fucking mentally?
What is that word?
Is that Stockholm syndrome?
Stockholm syndrome. That's it. I wonder if she got that because that's a long time, and obviously
No, she wasn't there voluntarily. He was locked under, like he was like being in prison. She was kept under lock and key.
Okay. I'm assuming that on the first instance, but sometimes those victims start to like take.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know because I don't think there was any. So obviously, once it all came out, I think they were like swept away quickly before the media could scoop anything on them. I don't think we know.
That is mental, you know. Yeah, I mean, well, wait, linking it back to relationships, honesty is the best policy.
Don't abduct and rape your own children. Is a take-home message there, I think. Yeah, he's setting the bar pretty low. The only way he's up, really, now.
I always think about new listeners to this podcast who in the first fucking 5 minutes have just hear us go off about Josef Fritzl. It gets better, don't it?
Tonic. Right. Who wants to unpack their relationship history first? We can keep it brief.
Right. You go first, and I know how much detail to go.
So I've had 2 long-term relationships in my life.
Okay.
One lasted 3 years. The other, lasted just over a year, but not officially. If that makes sense.
In and out of that one.
It was a COVID relationship, so it was all.
Yeah.
There was no hard or
convoluted.
No hard or fast rules there.
Yeah. Breaking lockdown.
I got broken up with twice.
Nice.
So that's good. 2-0.
2-0.
Shit KD
no
ratio
knockouts.
that. Not a great start to my professional career. But we bounce back.
You can bounce back from that. I mean, you know.
And that's about it, really. I think.
Okay. So
I think we can leave it at that because
we'll
unpack more later.
Yeah. So about the same, I think. So I was with one girl in the Marines when I went to Scotland. That was for about 6 months ish, kind of thing, and then single for ages, and then was in my last relationship, which was like 3.5 years, which ended in April this year ish.
Yeah, and we haven't stopped doing shit since.
Yeah, and basically I've just been busy since. That's why this podcast's been every week.
We've just made ourselves busy ever since. It's been great, really, for the podcast.
Yeah, it's been very good. But it has. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. So I actually, in theory, so it's a bit weird with the last one, but with the first one, I broke up with her, and then I knew it wasn't going to be long term, so I thought, let's call this now. And then 3.5 years into my last relationship, I pulled the trigger again. Maybe I just get cold feet all the time. But yeah, I was like, we need some space, all the rest of it. That didn't get communicated very well, and then it went to shit from there, basically.
Yeah, it was like a comms breakdown, wasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I think so. I'd been having sort of doubts-ish for a bit, and then I think we both had, to be honest. We were like very much intense in terms of like living together, living with her family and all the rest of it. So I was like, cool, I need some space. So said that, and then I think she interpreted that as like, that's it, job done.
Yeah.
And then I was under the impression we'd go back in a month and try and figure it out again. But that wasn't to be.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of lost in translation, really.
Yeah, so I think she won on points.
She won on aggregate. Went to penalties.
I think split decision there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the other one was a knockout, and then I won that one, and then this last one was split decision points.
Yeah, so what I want to do now is, so now you've got a brief idea of where we're coming from and how traumatised we are, is I want to underpin it with something called attachment theory.
Okay.
Which I think we can use to better understand.
I agree.
where we've come from and where we're going.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of attachment theory, it's essentially how you respond to relationships, and it spans from kind of your childhood and how you're treated as a child, or is it a natural thing? I don't know.
No, so I think it's
how you're treated, isn't it?
It's how your experiences with your caregivers as a child then affect your romantic relationships in later life.
Yeah.
So there are 4 different attachment styles, supposedly.
Yeah.
Should we run through them?
Let's go.
Right, okay, so the first one is secure attached. So if you're secure attached, you're likely to have had caregivers who are constantly supportive, makes you comfortable with intimacy and in independence. So, for example, you trust your partner, you're open about your feelings, and you can give and receive support freely.
Okay.
So I think that's
like the good one, basically.
Yeah. If you ask a behavioural scientist or like a therapist, they'll say that there are no winners or losers, but there are. Let's be honest, and that's the good one.
So this is like everyone is basically trying to find a secure attached person.
Yeah,
because they're the ones you want to be in relationships with, effectively. But we'll get into that.
Because the other ones just slowly get more unhinged. So the second one is anxious / preoccupied attached. So these individuals have had kind of inconsistent caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So it was present, but it wasn't. So it was like that lack of clarity and consistency, I think.
Yeah.
So probably worry about their partner's feelings and fear abandonment. So these are the kind of people feel anxious if their partner doesn't respond immediately, or like constantly seeking reassurance. You know, so like if you
can maybe come across too full on, I guess. You know. So keep on trying to like get approval from the partner or whatever it is.
Yeah. So like I don't know. So like if you say if it's long distance and you don't get a reply quickly,
you would instantly think the worst.
You're the person that then like triple texts.
It's
that right.
Tracks the location.
Yeah. So then we've got dismissive avoidant attached, which is stemming from emotionally unavailable caregivers.
Okay.
So we're slipping further down the ladder now.
Mm-hmm.
So these people avoid emotional closeness in relationships altogether. So, for example, being uncomfortable with discussions about emotions or feeling suffocated when a partner tries to give them emotionally close.
Okay. So
these are people that are pushing kind of partners away.
And that would be through fear of getting too close, or is that through fear of them leaving?
I think
fear of getting too close, right?
I think if it stems from unavailable caregivers, it's like I don't want to let these people into my life because I'm expecting them to leave.
So they don't want to get hurt, I guess.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, cool. Because that's what happened when they were younger with their caregivers.
And then you've got fearful. I think 3 and 4 are quite similar. It's just that one's a more extreme version of the other.
That's an avoidant attached, right?
Yeah, or fearful avoidant.
Okay.
So you got this basically results from traumatic or inconsistent caregiving. So it's just like a more extreme version of 3, I think.
Yeah. I thought there was only 3, so that's probably why.
Yeah. So I thought
3 and 4.
I thought that.
Merged,
I think so. A lot of this episode's prep is from a Diary of a CEO episode.
Yeah.
What's the name again? Sorry. Logan Uri. Logan Uri. It came out about a couple of weeks ago. You'll be able to find it.
Fairly new, yeah.
Came out on October 26th. Anyway, she went through 3 different attachment styles, but I think she distilled 3 and 4 into one.
She did. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So we both watched that episode.
Yeah.
We effectively, she was going out, or she was finding people who were avoidant attached, and that was what she was kind of attracted to initially. But then through kind of researching, as she was working with a dating coach as well, so through working with that dating coach, they were like, actually, you need to be trying to find someone who was secure attached, like we were saying. And she found one of those, and then I think she said she'd been with him for 9 years.
Yeah, so for the sake of ease, maybe if we just combine 3 and 4, so then we're just discussing the 3. So we've got the secure, we've got the anxious, and we've got the avoidant. So
yeah, secure, anxious, avoidant. Remember that, kids, for the next hour.
So where do you sit?
I think I'm somewhere. I was thinking about this morning. I think I'm somewhere between secure and avoidant. I think.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think, but I'm not. I don't think I identify with any of them individually, because I had a very my parents. Like my childhood was pretty normal, like very supportive. Like the three kids in terms of my two siblings are all doing such different things that they wouldn't be able to have the confidence to go and do those things if we weren't like supported throughout our childhood and all the rest of it. So I think yeah, secure. Secure. I resonate with secure a lot, and I resonate with avoidant a little bit.
Okay.
I think.
So where does the avoidant come from?
Don't know. I don't know in terms of from caregiving, but I just identify that a little. I can resonate a little bit in terms of how I see relationships.
This is the other thing you have to do when we're talking about this. It's quite easy to just suddenly start blaming your parents for all your issues, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's not the case here. We both come from very supportive and loving homes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not all one thing. It could be a experience with maybe the opposite sex when you were young, when you're like teens or whatever, and that can inform how you see things.
See, I think a lot. See, I was thinking about this earlier as well. And I think, spoiler alert, I think a lot of my issues with females come from the fact that my self-esteem was toilet, I was in my early teens.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with maybe caregiving, it's to do with your experience when you were in those formative years.
Yeah,
right?
Basically girls didn't want to know me.
Yeah.
And I think that shaped my relationship with women a lot since.
I think I'm the same. So, as we talked about in our school episode, I wasn't exactly desirable at school, should we say? So I'm the same. I think exactly the same thing. Like, it sort of flip flopped a little bit in terms of if you take like the first maybe 2 years of high school and the second 3 years of high school, it flipped. So I was a bit more, I guess, in the what would you call it, like the normal social group in the first 2 years, and then flipped, and then you did the opposite, right? So you went a little bit more outside, and then you came and fit in.
Yeah, I used to be gopping.
And then you came and fit in the last 3 years. What would you categorise yourself as?
See, I don't know, because then I think since then, so if that was the foundation of my kind of relationship with women, I think my subsequent relationships since have further tarnished myself. Just
your experiences in those relationships?
I think so, yeah.
Because why?
I don't know. So I was talking to another friend about this, Ashley.
Yeah.
Yeah, who we went to school with. And she's basically the only girl that I'm close with in a
platonic sense.
In a platonic sense. So it's good to have these conversations with her, because otherwise all of these conversations would just be had with men.
Yeah, which isn't super productive, is it? Because it's completely different how we see the world, like how we see this dating scene.
Yeah, and I think basically we came to the conclusion that to a certain extent we both have like abandonment issues, because we always get broken up with.
So would that be anxious?
I think it's a mix of avoidant and anxious, which is probably the worst of both worlds.
Fantastic. Okay, so
I think like
because you've been broken up with both times, is that?
Yeah, so like you're constantly fearful of like what your partner's thinking, and you don't want to like upset them, but then at the same time you don't want to let them too close, because you feel like ultimately you'll disappoint them and they'll fuck off eventually.
So you strike that middle ground, and then you never kind of open up.
So you never open up,
so
and
you
then
can't
you're also
properly.
So you can't open up, but then again you're too attentive to them, because you're like worried that what they think about you. So you strike a terrible middle ground where they can't really attach themselves to you, and you're pushing them away because you're too full on.
But did that manifest in your relationships? I feel like you weren't. Well, I mean, I don't know, but I don't think, certainly in the first one.
I don't know. I'm not really in a position to say that. I would have to ask
the person in question. Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, as you kind of see it from a bird's eye view now, would you say that that's how you came across in that, or that's how you behaved in that relationship, or no?
No, I think I was. Yeah, no, I don't think.
I would have said you were fairly secure in that relationship, maybe. Again, obviously.
Yeah, well, I think at the time I thought I was, which is why it affected me so much when it ended. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Because you essentially tried one way and it didn't work.
Yeah, because it's like having basically I felt like I had the rug pulled from underneath me.
Yeah, because you were thinking everything's good, I'm sweet, I'm happy, I'm secure in this relationship, and then pretty much out of nowhere.
So we moved. So the full scoop. I finished my undergrad, and then we both moved to Manchester together, and I started a master's degree, and the whole idea was that then we'd stay in Manchester and then just get a gaff and whatever, and just continue to live together forever. And then 3 months into that journey, she fucking kiboshed it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was just like, what?
Well, so you were both young, but she was younger, right? She was
Only a year below.
Year below.
1 year younger.
Okay.
But mentally, I think she was
what I
a
mean.
lot more immature.
So that's what I mean. So you have to be. I think you have to be in a certain level of at a certain level of maturity to commit to staying with one person for the rest of your life and trying to go to that conventional route of we're gonna live here, we're gonna have a gaff, all the rest of it. Because certainly in this day and age, it leaves a lot on the table that you're sacrificing now for this one pursuit. And if you're young and immature and haven't experienced everything else, then there's always going to be a bit of your brain that thinks, what's it like over there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's it like doing that? What's it like being a fuck girl at uni or whatever? Do you know what I mean? So that probably is.
Yeah, so obviously I was in Manchester doing a master's course.
And you were a lot more mature.
And I was just generally a lot more mature anyway. I was kind of over going out even at that point. We've talked about that a lot on the podcast. But then she was doing her undergrad so she could piss about a lot so effectively. Cool. A master's degree is a lot more serious, isn't it? You've got to kind of have your head screwed on.
Well, you've chosen that.
Yeah, I've chosen to be there.
Yeah.
So you're not going to fuck around. But then she was still doing an undergrad and she was working at Mackey's and she basically just wanted to be out.
Yeah.
Like partying. And fair enough. So it was probably for the best. Because if we'd have just stayed together, then we were going in separate directions anyway. So.
And that can't work.
It probably the longer we'd stay together, the more explosive it would have been when it did end.
Yeah. So again, that's probably a good frame to look at it through. Like now, is that actually it's the best thing that could have happened. And if you map both of your paths since that point.
Yeah, well, I've been proven right by time, effectively, haven't I?
Yeah.
Because we have continued to go separate paths.
Completely separate ways, exactly. So I mean, you could.
And I won.
Yeah, by knockout. You probably couldn't have gone more separate ways, could you? So, So what I feel like from that is, if you just stayed together, because when you're apart from someone, when you're on your own, you pretty much manifest what you want to happen. So you go where you want to go because you're not influenced by anyone. So you stopping your masters and coming back here and now getting into fitness and all the rest of it and doing that kind of thing. That's what you wanted to do because there's nothing else really informing that decision. It's just, okay, I want to do this, so I'm going to do that. Whereas if you're in a relationship, you've got to take in consideration what the other person wants and all that kind of stuff. She's the same. She hasn't got you to think about, so she's doing whatever.
Yeah,
so
you
the
show
fact
like
that
your true
you show your
self,
true colours. So
yeah.
I think the fact that you've gone disparate ways, showing your true self, means that if you were together, not going those separate ways, like you say, when it eventually would have ended, it would have been
it kind
worse.
Of proved us right, really, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've continued to go our separate ways, effectively. And I think you're right. I think originally I was sat in the secure attached camp, but then obviously there was that, and then there was a second relationship. So now I sit somewhere in between, anxious and avoidant, unfortunately. And as we continue to unpack in this episode, you will now realise why I am in the position that I am now. Really, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. When was the last one? That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's coming up to a while now.
Yeah.
Really, I've been out the game for ages.
Out the game.
But when we unpack dating tendencies later,
we'll cover that.
We'll cover that, and it doesn't reflect very well on me. I don't think for where I am, kind of in my mentality wise, when it comes to dating.
We'll get to that.
Let's unpack. Well, the second one's not so traumatic, I don't think, because that wasn't as deep, obviously, because it just didn't last as long, and also it was kind of unforeseen, uncontrollable circumstances, really.
Yeah. What I will say though is we went to Liverpool. You remember we went to Liverpool on a kind of night out, weekend away thing. Literally, was it the weekend after, or
no? It was the weekend before.
Okay.
So it was on the rocks, and basically the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
But the trigger hadn't been pulled at that point.
So I mean, literally, you were like a shadow.
Yeah, I was a mess.
It was mental. Because we hadn't been away for a while either. We obviously been mates for ages, but we hadn't been away really for ages together.
No, we didn't brush past that much at that point for whatever reason. Because you were still in the Corps, so I didn't see that much anyway. And you were with the obvious.
Was I? No, I wasn't.
You were.
When was that? Oh yeah, I was.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was. It was. Yeah.
So at that point, just at that phase in our lives, we didn't see much of each other anyway.
So we were like, let's go to Liverpool for the weekend or whatever. You were like, sweet, and then that was mad because so anything we did. So again, because I didn't really have the full scoop of what was going on, like anything we did, like going to the gym or going to the fucking cavern, all these kind of things that initially would be really, really good and you'd enjoy them. You were always kind of somewhere else mentally, and I could always see it. I
was just absent, and me and you have basically had the same kind of dynamic since like year 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically. So the fact that was massively knocked off kilter
probably
probably said to you something wasn't right.
Yeah. And then the weekend after, obviously, it unravelled, didn't it? So it made sense. It made sense to me. But yeah, so it wasn't as deep, but I think
I think it just reinforced what happened the first time round, if anything.
Yeah. So the fallout from it was, if anything, worse. I think. Do you know what I mean?
Probably because it was like
compound.
it confirmed in my mind.
Yeah, and it compounded it. But I mean, you can't, even though that's happened twice, you can't fucking just think that's going to happen all the time.
Yeah, I know. No, this is why stuff like this is good, because I'm now realising this.
No, exactly.
And we can exercise it and learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to go through, isn't it? In good time.
So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Do you want
to now unpack you?
Do you want to switch fire? Okay. From the prospect of the attachment sort of styles.
Yes. So kind of where what I did. So where were you sat originally? How's that changed? Where are you at now?
I was in school. I was very I don't know. I've always had like a weird like romanticisation of stuff.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. That comes under dating tendencies.
Okay. Well, I've always had that, and whenever. Yeah, I would like put people on a pedestal basically. Like there'd be one girl in the year that I'd be like, fucking hell, that's gonna be it, right? And then
you know who you are,
and then that wouldn't materialise for whatever reason, probably because I never dropped game or whatever. But yeah,
but you can't drop game though. That's the thing, because they're on such a pedestal, they're almost untouchable in your mind.
Fair point. Yeah.
Because I've done the same thing. Yeah. I think we started in a very similar position. Yeah. It's only subsequently, since we've been in relationships of an older age, we've probably diverged.
Maybe. Yeah, so I was like that, a bit similar, I guess, to you. Probably secure, would that be, I guess?
Yeah, because I think we had very similar upbringings.
Yeah,
I think we were both
we
felt loved and cared for.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think I can't fault that at all. I don't think there's anything to do with the way my caregivers, that kind of dynamic. But so I had no relationship. Did I? No relationship through school, really. Not at all, to be fair. Which is not common. Like, people do generally have some sort of whatever.
Well, neither of us did.
No.
I had a few flings.
I didn't really have any of them, to be honest.
People who were nameless.
Nameless, yeah. Yeah, so I didn't really have anything going on at school. And again, like I mentioned in the school episode, pretty much had like a U-turn in terms of personality and confidence, all the rest of it, when I joined the Corps. Went through training without a partner. That was probably a fucking good thing, to be honest.
We have touched on that before. We think in the grand scheme of things, that's probably when not having a partner plays into your advantage.
There are times when it does, to be honest, when not having a partner plays a role.
Yeah, we can touch on that in a bit, I think, because there is certainly a time and a place.
Yeah, 100%. So anyway, went through training, did that, got sent up to Scotland, was then kind of cut loose, effectively.
This is the fuckboy era, isn't it?
A little bit.
We are going to have to address that.
Yeah.
Because I think it does play its part.
Yeah, there must be some reason why I felt the need to go down that route. So anyway, was with this Scottish girl for a while, about 6 months. Not really that. I met her on Tinder, basically. It was so from my perspective. This sounds so bad. So my perspective, I wanted to go and hook up, basically, meet her and whatever. That turned into we really got on. That turned into a bit of a relationship, which I hadn't really like.
Is it one of them where it just kind of happens?
Yeah, I hadn't really like boxed for that. I hadn't really kind of
quite literally.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hadn't really budgeted for that in my emotional state. Anyway, and so I wasn't really ready for that, I don't think. And we got it started moving a little bit quicker, and then I was coming home and realising, because we were spending a lot of time apart as well, because obviously the nature of the job, and she was up north, and I associated seeing her with work, which never really worked, and that kind of thing. So, and
ultimately, the only reason you were up there was because you were stationed there with work.
Yeah,
you hadn't chosen to go there of your own volition.
No, so there was all those kinds of things going on, and then I realised that I was super attractive to other people, and and specifically one other person, which will remain nameless. Anyway, and so I was like, well, if that's happening 3 months in, which is supposedly the honeymoon period, that fucking ain't supposed to happen. So effectively, this is really bad, by the way. Don't do this. Broke up with her by text. Horrendous.
That's not a good move.
I was on the way behind the wire. I was like, this has got to end. So I just sent the fucking message.
The Brummy brothers don't endorse that kind of behaviour.
Nah.
Learn from our mistakes,
but again,
kids.
this is all about being transparent. So I could say, I wore my heart on my sleeve and went down there. But anyway.
Yeah, this is a safe space, everyone.
Yeah. Should have a fire burn in the middle. Throw negativity onto the fire.
Throw Josef Fritzl onto the fire.
We should do that as a helmet of the week. Anyway, and then came back, had a bit of a fling with my next door neighbour, which was fantastic. But
I forgot.
That didn't last very long.
So full disclosure, I never had any interaction whatsoever with this Scottish girl, did I?
No.
So like this is all just got to come from you because I can't input anything onto that.
No, fine, yeah. So again, when I was there, I saw her a lot, and we were like going on dating basically. I would spend a lot of time at her parents' gaff and all the rest of it, but then I just ended it because I felt like it wasn't right, which is probably the right thing to do, I would say. And
then you had that fling with your neighbour at the time,
yeah.
Which again surely must feed into your kind of like romanticisation because that's like the girl next door, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's very
probably,
kind of like
maybe. I think it's very like
that's very kind
right
of like
place, right time,
very Hollywood that.
So I'll tell you what happened with that. So very right place, right time. So I was genuinely, this is how it happened. I was genuinely lying in bed, hungover, scrolling through Instagram. Right, I like a random photo. She messaged me saying, "Oh, do you know I live opposite you?" Or I was like, "Hey, what?" Anyway, so I started chatting to her, or whatever. We went for a dog walk, and then the kind of next 4 weeks mapped out, whatever. Anyway, and then halfway through, or at the end of that kind of time, she was away. And she asked me to take it to the next level.
To ask her out, basically.
Yeah, and I just was like ignored. I brushed over that.
That's it. That needs unpacking.
That needs unpacking. So anyway, I did that. Then she got in a relationship, so that was all gone. That was all done. And then I had a little bit of like an era where I was a bit feral for a bit. Dating apps, all the rest of it.
Is that when you went down to Bournemouth?
Yes. Yeah. So it's a little bit. So for full context, like in Helensburgh in Scotland, there's fuck all there. So you can't. There's not really any sort of game to be dropped. Yeah. Effectively.
Bournemouth, on the other hand.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of Southern blonde talent.
So you go down Bournemouth and it's fantastic, right? You set your Tinder to like Bournemouth University and it's like, what the fuck is that? You don't know what's it here. So anyway, that happened, and then my next like semi. So this needs unpacking. I forgot about this. So my next semi-serious thing, I guess it wasn't serious at all, right? This just like lasted more than 2 encounters, right? this is my definition of serious. So this girl,
what I like to call a frequented box.
She's not listed, it's fine. So this girl from Bournemouth, I was infatuated with this girl. So again, met her on Tinder, fucking common theme here. And when I met her, we were seeing each other for probably 2 months, but again, long distance. When I came back, there was nothing going on and all the rest of it. So I was in for that. That was fantastic for me. That was like, lives by the seaside. You know, all those things that you kind of think, like, oh, she's gorgeous, lives by the seaside. I was like, this is
it's all box
fabulous.
ticks for you, isn't it?
I was loving this.
This is like you're perfect. So like you're saying, like you obviously romanticise everything. This is all
it,
coming together. This is what I've been waiting for.
That's it. So what happened? This is terrible as well. So again, I hope people are just thinking, fucking hell, at least my detail isn't that bad. So she'd come to, this is hilarious. I don't think I've spanned this on the podcast. So she'd come to camp for a bit. I'd signed her on, all legal. All right. Anyway, we were getting down to it. All right, we were getting on it. And anyway, then the fire alarm goes off. Right. Bear in mind, this is a camp with probably about 600 blokes, no women. Right. So
it's the worst possible time.
The worst
as well.
place for a 19-year-old fit bird to be. Okay. Anyway, goes off the fire alarm. We're dishevelled, so we make ourselves presentable again before going outside. Because I thought it was real. I thought it was a real fire. I was like, sure, it's not a drill or whatever. So I was like, look, you're gonna have to come outside. Anyway, went outside. Because we were about 5 minutes after everyone else, there's literally a plethora of about 600 blokes stood opposite the building, facing the building. I come out with this girl, and everyone goes, "Whoa!" I was like, "Fuck!"
Not how you want to be greeted.
And she's like covering herself. She's like, "Fuck's sake!" And then turns out it was just the colour sergeant who wanted to do a roll call at fucking 1800. I was like, brilliant. And so he was like, "Shepherd, she can go back inside." I was like, "Fucking hell, thank God." So I've turned her around. Anyway, I think that probably traumatised her, to be honest.
So did it fizzle out after that?
I saw her a few more times. She came back to camp again somehow. Don't know how I fucking sold that, but anyway, she came back to camp again, and then I literally sent her on the train back. So I dropped her off at the train station, sent her on the train back to her gaff. Said, "Oh yeah, text me when you get back." Didn't hear anything again. So that was about 2 more encounters after that, and I think what happened is she got back with her ex. That's what I think happened. Anyway,
Right. Okay.
Anyway, that was done. And then I went to Estonia for like 8 weeks, so it's probably the right time, to be honest.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have gone well. And anyway, that was rent-free for a good amount of time, to be honest. That was pretty... because there was no loop closed.
Yeah, so this is the other thing. As we've already touched on before in previous podcasts, we have a lot of open loops.
But that was a massive open loop.
Yeah.
Because imagine, you got no context there. I think she just had a great night. Because it was sound, amicable, everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, no comms. I'm like, what the fuck is going on there? Like, it's better if she just like, right, I don't want to see you anymore, block.
Because then you have an answer at least.
At least, yeah. So
you're just left second guessing now because it's like...
Yeah, I was like, did I do something wrong?
So like, did you do something wrong, or was she caught in two minds, and then the whole fire alarm incident just pushed her further towards her ex?
Yeah.
Or like maybe she'd made the decision anyway, and like she just wanted a bit of fun for a bit until he agreed to it.
Probably that's probably more like it, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, I went away for a bit. Was again single for a while. I think doing the same old stuff. And then when did I meet Ellie? In 2019, I want to say. Something like that. It would have been, wouldn't it? Anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Before COVID. Met a girl in a nightclub.
In Snobs.
So yeah, not Tinder this
time. Locals and loyal listeners to the podcast will remember Snobs.
Yeah, it's not a fun place.
So
anyway,
make of that what you will.
Met her there, took her out the next day, and then we were basically, that was it for like the next kind of 3 years. We were, this is a bit of a weird situation as well, may as well explain before we get into anything. It was just before COVID. So what happened was we were together for 3 months. Then I went away for 3 months to Norway. Okay, so picture you've been together 6 months, and you've only seen each other for 3 months of that 6 months, right? So it's a tall order to ask a girl in uni who's seen you fucking for 3 months to then go, hang on, I'm away for 3 months now, right? That's a bit of a tall order. I think that's probably something I maybe overlooked as a bit of a challenge. Because obviously I'm in Norway, but I've got loads of shit to do. I'm quite busy. She's sat in her grot at uni, just threaders, basically, innit? Like, that's a difficult dynamic.
That's quite a big sacrifice for her to make, because obviously your undergrad, especially first year as well, is supposed to be when you let your hair down, you go out.
Yeah.
You probably experiment a bit to try and find out who you are.
And that was her first year, yeah. So yeah, mad really that was a possibility. But anyway.
And maybe further down the line, that did do her a disservice because she never had that opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not...
She did, but she did it younger.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. Right. Don't want to throw her under the bus, but yeah. I mean, she was on the same numbers as me, and she was 3 years below. So anyway,
so like Wolf of Wall Street, Matthew McConaughey was like their rookie numbers.
Yeah, their rookie numbers. So anyway, came back from Norway, literally launching into COVID, so launching into the lockdown. So we were like, okay, haven't seen each other for 3 months. What do we do? Because we may now, COVID might be fucking 2 years. You don't know, do you? So we make a decision to either lock down at my house, lock down at her house. She was going to be more homesick than I would be, so we decided on hers. And then literally for the next fucking 2 years, I basically lived at her house with her parents. Yeah,
you were like fully moved in. That was your residence.
That was my gaff. Yeah, well, literally, as Grenade have now found out, that was literally where I got fucking parcels sent.
Certain companies do still think you live there.
Yeah, they're not anymore. They've changed their notes now. Message them on Instagram. So that's literally it. So that spanned all the way until I left the Corps. When I left the Corps, I got a job in a certain place. I got a job in a certain place that was close to where I lived with my ex, and so I was like, okay, well, I either decide to try and live there still, or I have to commute 50 minutes at fucking 5 a.m. And and just didn't make sense. And I got on really well with the family anyway, so moved in full time effectively. Because before it was like I was there, but I was there on weekends, so it was not as bad. But then moved in actually full time, and that was the next kind of year, I guess.
So what happened at the end?
At the end of that relationship,
As in, because that sounds like you're in a good place there. So what is it? What happened in the meantime that resulted in you pulling the trigger of April of this year?
I think so. So we went travelling together. That was actually really good. But there was a lot that I was interested in that she wasn't, effectively, and that always played on my mind. I think that was the main thing. So ever since you started effectively being closer and spending more time together, the fact that you didn't have that many kind of like core interests like compounded, it became more apparent. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so like the like I won't give too many examples, but like just I'd always heard, and again this is my first long-term relationship, so I'm like learning on the job, right? So I'm kind of like figuring
friendship wage,
figuring things out. Yeah, exactly. 40-hour weeks. So I was like, okay, everyone's saying you need value alignment, you need schedule alignment, and everything I heard of like what makes up a good relationship, I was like measuring it against ours. I was like, it's not really. So, for example, I like to get up. I'm a morning person. I like to get up early and do whatever. She's opposite, night owl, gets up at 12. For me, that dynamic can't really work. But I mean, listening to Matthew Walker,
the sleep god,
on Diary of a CEO, he actually said that I think 30% of divorces end because they have different sleep cycles.
Yeah, that was quite a stark example and probably the best one you could have used because you couldn't be at further ends of the spectrum in that regard when it comes to sleep.
No,
because you are kind of like the epitome of an early riser.
Yeah,
and she's the antithesis of that.
Yeah. So what used to happen, which is mad, right? So this is so she'd be doing her undergrad degree, and it was from home at this point because of COVID. I'd be working in the gym, so I'd have to get up at 5 to go to my morning shift. I'll be back at like 11, 12ish for after my morning shift. She'd have worked all the way till like 4, and then I'd come back, and she'd just be getting up. I'm like, this is insane. Like, so it's a bit it's one of them because again I would then finish my evening shift. I'll be knackered, and she's only been up for like a couple of hours. She's good to go. It's just it's not energy wise. It's not equated. But again, I do in hindsight maybe think I was picking holes a little bit.
Well, we'll get on to that
potentially, and again that romanticisation probably doesn't help because I'm like, this is good, but it's not perfect, and all the rest of it. And that woman actually said something on that podcast. What's her name? Let's give her a credit.
Logan Ury.
Logan, that's it. She said that a lot of people are constantly hopping on relationships because they're trying to find the perfect person who doesn't exist. A lot of times you've got to find the best person and just try and make it work.
Yeah, I think that is going to be one of the key take-home points from this. I think a lot of people expect an individual to rock up into their life kind of pre-made, ready to go.
Yeah.
When actually it's about identifying someone with potential and then working together to make a fruitful relationship.
I'd agree. Yeah, 100%. So that's what happened, I think, anyway. There was a lot of disparate interests and that kind of thing. And then, I decided against... And to be fair, so to give full context, in that month apart, the last bit, she came to realise that she was prioritising me over her too much, I think. So, as in, like, she was, like, spanning in her mind the last 3 years and realised she hadn't really grown anywhere, and I had. And the reason for that was maybe because, in her mind, because she'd pushed all her energy into me and not into her.
So does that mean that she then sits within kind of, like, anxious attachment if she's putting all of her time and energy into making sure that you're okay?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd probably say so. Yeah,
that's just as an outsider. That's.
But I think maybe I would.
So where do you sit within that then? That dynamic.
Within what dynamic? Within the attachment.
Does that make you avoidant?
Why?
If she feels that she's putting a lot of time and energy into you, but then like somehow it's not reciprocated.
I think it was reciprocated. I think it was reciprocated 100%. It wasn't maybe to the extent
Right. Okay. So there was
that
just
she
like
was. There was maybe a little bit of a gap.
like an energy misalignment.
Maybe, yeah. Because I am very much so. My fucking ethos, and this is what I mean by like value alignment and stuff. My ethos is very much you take care of yourself, and you being the best you means that your relationships are better. Right? That's literally. If you fucking take anything in terms of how I see the world, that's literally how I see the world. Like, if you're better, everything around you is going to be better as a consequence. So,
Yeah, you can't look after anyone else until you square yourself away.
that's it. So she's the opposite, effectively. Like, she's just about everyone else can go first. She'll be an afterthought, which in my opinion doesn't work. But yeah, and there was a lot of like me trying to push that onto her, and she was like, "That's not really working for me."
I see. That's a good point. Actually, there's very much there is a misalignment there in principles, really, isn't there? So if you're very much about like you got to put yourself first to then be better for your partner.
Yeah.
But she's kind of almost like you've got to be a martyr for the cause almost.
And yeah, and almost sacrifice.
And almost sacrifice yourself for the relationship. Then they're the antithesis of each other, aren't they?
This is it, and so that's maybe what I sort of identified. But I mean, it's not like it couldn't have worked. I don't think. Anyway, like it's not like a complete deal breaker, but part of that romanticisation probably doesn't help it. I guess.
No, and it's always a cost benefit analysis as well, isn't it? Because relationships don't exist in a vacuum, do they? So in the back of your mind, there's loads of stuff that you still want to do in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of different factors at play. It's not just you don't just see it completely objectively from the point of view of the relationship.
No, you know what's mad though is like I always so obviously it's always the trite thing is you don't know how good your kind of existence is until it's different. Okay, so like when I ended that and that was like my existence day to day was completely different. So income wise, right? If you take everything into a bucket. It's like physically, I was training more than ever when I was there because we had a fucking gym on site, right? Income-wise, taking a little bit of a hit because I was comfortable. Okay, so I was like super comfortable, living in a ridiculous house. And this is
we have to address the bubble.
Yeah, you're living in a bubble. So like
we won't say where, but there are certain places in the country where if you reside there, you effectively live in a bit of a bubble and you're like insulated from reality, effectively.
Yeah, and that was it. So like. I'd drive, but probably not as much because there's always that like disconnect with it. I need to work hard, but yeah. And so income was down a little bit, and I was like, things were decent. I think I was pretty comfortable, and since then, I've obviously kicked on with business and stuff like that, and that's gone really well. Physically, probably the best state I've been in for a while, so that's good. But I think there's always niceties in that comfort. I think that that maybe miss sometimes. You know what I mean? So like, it's one of them. I don't know. But that comfort isn't. So the comfort in like the bubble isn't something that could have been long. It could have been long term anyway.
No,
it wasn't my comfort. It wasn't my bubble.
No. Well, if you're not, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room.
As they famously say.
As you've now learned.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, I'm in a massively different place at the moment.
So just to round it up then, to bring it back to the attachment theory, where do you think you sit now?
Where would you say from what I've said? Interesting to hear. I don't know.
It's hard. So I think I don't know.
It's hard to assign. This is why we're not dating coaches, as you can imagine. But yeah.
I think you're more avoidant.
Do you think?
Yeah. I don't think you're anxious.
No, I don't think so. No, because this was a bit of a bone of contention as well. Like I was super chill.
I was literally just about to say. I think your disposition is literally horizontal
in everything. So that spans into relationship. So I
think that can come across as. So I think you are a bit dismissive anyway.
Maybe.
But then I think the fact that your kind of outlook on life is so chilled out, kind of double downs on that, even if it's not deliberate.
Maybe, yeah.
Because you can come across as not arsed.
Yeah.
But that's actually just like your disposition. That's
just how I see everything.
Yeah.
Because you're right, massively. Because like the example would be most men, right? And this is I don't know. To be honest, most men will probably be like if they're. So I'll give you a specific example. See what you think. I think I've told you about this before. So you're dancing in a club and a bloke tries to hit on your missus. I didn't see it. Right. When I found out about that 20 seconds later, the bloke in question wasn't there anymore. So my reaction to that was what can you do? What can you do?
That's
I
fair.
don't give a fuck. Like, obviously it's not great, but next question. Anyway, the sort of expected reaction was very different. So obviously, you know, your missus maybe expects you to get fucking mad and like try and fucking find this guy, but I see that as unproductive. I see that as ridiculous.
See, this is where relationships inherently are irrational, aren't they? Because that is not the logical response. The logical response is the response that you gave.
Yeah, which is
you can't do anything about it now. What's the point in ruining the night and losing your head over someone that ultimately you're never going to find?
And I never lose my head. When have I lost my head ever? Have you ever seen me lose my head? Really?
No, I actually genuinely haven't.
There you go.
But the closest I came to see you losing your head was that when we were interrailing, and it very nearly got to the point where you couldn't upload that day. That's genuinely the closest I've seen to you at the end of your tether. Of all the things that could have tipped you over the edge, it was like your upload streak.
Yeah, man, fucking hell. Today still actually in the balance. Yeah, so I mean,
I've triggered a repressed trauma.
Yeah, this is it. So I don't know. I'm very chilled out by nature, so maybe that comes across as dismissive.
Yeah,
correct.
And just to add to that anecdote there, that has happened to me in a club before, and even I've lost my head.
Yeah,
and by most people's standards, I'm chilled out.
Yeah.
I'll still turn into John Fury.
Yeah, I just can't get on board with that. And I used to put it down to the Marines in terms, you said before where like you have been under proper stress before, so like that sort of stress doesn't really touch the sides. But then I know loads of lads in the Marines, and that's the opposite.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? From the people if that happened to their missus, they'd be fighting them.
Yeah, 100%. From the exposure that I've had to your mates from the Corps.
And your mates who were now in the Corps.
But I think our mates from home have influenced us more in that regard because they are very much of that ilk. Yeah. Where like they are quite kind of like hyper aggressive.
There's a specific northern friend.
But there is a specific northern friend he's a friend of the podcast.
Who definitely would go down that route. So, see, I don't know what it is that makes me so fucking relaxed. I think it's my dad, to be honest. I do think it's my dad because he's the same, super chill, like about everything, pretty much.
Yeah, well, but again, like in every other aspect of life, that's a great quality to have.
Yeah, apparently not in a nightclub when your missus is getting.
Yeah,
harassed.
well, make that what you are. Anyway, let's move on slightly. Let's move on to modern dating, which is obviously going to be kind of quite heavily influenced by dating apps.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have covered them before. We're going to cover them from a little bit of a different angle, though, aren't we?
Yeah. So I think we all know what dating apps are.
Shit.
And we have covered them in the past. So I don't think we need to spend too much time trying to unpack dating apps themselves.
Okay.
But I think we can all appreciate now that most people meet on dating apps.
So it's about 50%.
It's about 50%, which if you think about it is a lot.
Yeah.
Considering that you don't spend the majority of your life on your screen, even though we do spend a lot of time on our screen.
Well, it's just not. So if you think about it in terms of like percentages of places you spend like time. So where you spend time at work, you spend time in a coffee shop, you spend time at the gym. So these are all places you could meet people. On dating apps, it's probably one like little 5% of that. So the fact that 50% of people meet on that is pretty.
Yeah, so it shows how kind of influential they are on our dating status and relationships. So I obviously don't have any experience of dating apps. You do.
I do a little bit.
So you might have to do a bit of heavy lifting anecdote-wise here.
Yeah, that's fine. So I mean, I actually thinking today, like, I might again just get rid of, because they are at the moment, from what I'm kind of experiencing with them. So again, my sort of viewpoint has changed a little bit on them. So I'll tell you why. So like initially my kind of view of like how to find a date, if we look at it like that, is like put yourself in as many places as possible where dates can occur, okay, and then your probability of finding a date is increased, which is correct by the numbers. However, I think
I was gonna say if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle.
Yeah, well, exactly that. Yeah, so that's been my kind of attitude in the past. But what it means is you have to spend a significant amount of effort on those dating apps, and it's just not cognitive time or effort that I want to spend. So I would rather talk to someone on Instagram who already has quote unquote skin in the game, who maybe has shown interest or whatever, versus someone on a dating app who I have no idea who they are, I have no interest in them, I have no fucking context, no background. I'm saying, how are you to someone I've never. What's the point?
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
I think you've touched on a good point there. I'm not against meeting someone online, but it's the dating app aspect of it. Because, like you said, I think there's something slightly more organic about meeting someone that, say, perhaps you've had brushings with on Instagram before, or at least you know of them. Like, so if you follow them for a while, you get to know their story a bit 100%. Through what they post and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you can get a grip of. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but you get a grip of like what they're like, what their energy's like, what they kind of all those kinds of things, which you can't get across on a dating app. So if you follow someone for like 2 months, whatever, you're seeing their stories, you're seeing their posts, you're seeing what they're doing. Like, you can think, okay, does that align with what I'm? Whereas you match someone on a dating app, it's very like it's just there.
Yeah,
it's just there instantly, and all you can see is like 6 photos. You're like, and it's yes or no, it's hot or not, effectively.
Yeah, so it's like so Instagram is a kind of much more of a slow burn, and yes, everything on there is curated, but not to the extent that a dating profile is.
Yeah, so some people spend ages creating their dating profile, which is mental.
Well, people have written books about how to optimise it best.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's the extent to people go with it.
It's just stupid. So I don't think. Again, there's different like bits of advice for dating apps, because some people say it is a way people meet people, so do it because it's a way that it happens. But I think in another sort of vein, you can think actually you're wasting a lot of time on there, and you having it may so this could happen as well. So if you're getting matches and maybe they're not materialising as dates, that could set you like a false sense of security almost. So you could be like, oh well, I'm getting matches on Tinder, so I won't bother approaching this person, or I won't bother talking to this person on a night out because I've got these fucking matches on Tinder. So it can be an easy cop out.
Yeah.
To actually trying to fucking find, which is mental because it's actually what it is for.
Yeah, and also to bring us into to lead us succinctly into our next kind of avenue of discussion.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that dating apps have done as well as that is kind of set unrealistic expectations.
100%. So it's all is it commoditized? I guess the word would be. There's so much choice.
The gamification almost, because it is like a yes no. It's like a swipe. It's like it's a video game, basically. And
it's addictive, and it's created in a way where it's got it. Like, for example,
that's what I mean. It's the gamification. It's deliberately addictive to keep you invested in the app.
Yeah. So Tinder example, you get a certain amount of swipes before you have to then pay for more swipes. Why is that? Because they make it addictive for you to have fucking swipes, so they can get money. It's mental.
So it's a bit like porn in the sense that it sets unrealistic expectations, and it's ultimately kind of potentially not grounded in that much reality.
And also in relationships, it could be really detrimental in terms of thinking there's a never-ending pool of people out there, because there isn't.
Exactly.
Realistically, there's only a certain amount of people that you're going to vibe with, that you're going to kind of connect with, whatever. Whereas the dating apps create this illusion that it's never ending. You can always fucking swipe because you can put your distance to like fucking 3 million kilometers and be like, oh sweet, there's loads of people. But actually, there's not, is there?
No. But all right, okay. So leading on to our next bit now, if you find yourself in the position where I think a lot of people do find themselves in, where they think there is unlimited choice because they now have unrealistic expectations, there are 3 dating tendencies that you can use to try and unpick why you haven't found the right person yet.
Okay, go for it.
So this has got a good toolkit for people that are kind of maybe serial daters or never seem to find the right person but are going on a lot of dates.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Should we talk? So, and we've already touched on a few of these, but I found this really useful to look back on dates that I've been on, that haven't materialised, and I've just brushed it aside as something innocuous.
Yeah.
But if you dig a bit deeper, the onus is actually on me.
Often is.
Yes. Right, okay, so number 1, the romanticiser. So basically these people, but all 3 of these things, by the way, have unrealistic expectations in common.
Yeah.
Right. So the romanticiser has unrealistic expectations of relationships. So they're expecting the fairy tale love story, the one soulmate scenario, very much like a dating purist, thinks like some divine cosmic justice will bestow their one true love upon them. Literally like fairy tale love. Almost.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We've got the maximiser. So these people have unrealistic expectations of their partner. So you're basically always waiting for the perfect person. You're always trying to find a flaw in someone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then we have the hesitator. So these people have unrealistic expectations of themselves. They're always waiting for the next milestone before they make themselves available. Like, I'll be ready to date when. I'll only be lovable when.
Yeah. Think of someone I know like that.
Well, we can unpack that now. We'll use ourselves as examples.
Yeah.
So where do you think you sit in that?
Romanticizer, 100%.
I think you straddle
maybe
romanticizer and maximizer.
I think actually maximizer maybe a little bit more thinking about it now I've heard what that is. Because I don't think romanticizer in the sense that I think there's one person and that I'm waiting for one out of fucking 6 million or whatever there is.
But you do think that there's kind of that one perfect person who'll tick all the boxes, but like you just haven't found them yet.
Yeah, but I'm also like, I'm not just thinking that I'll stumble upon them. I am kind of thinking that, just like everything else, but this is incorrect, but by the way, but this is my thought process, that like everything else, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it, but that's not how it works, is it, with dating? Like, as in, the more fucking times you buy a ticket, the more chance there is to win the raffle, innit? But
yeah, so unpacking it, I think you probably sit a bit more in maximizer camp.
Yeah, probably. But I think it's important sometimes to think about. It's important to have not a checklist, but like standards, like little things that you look for, right?
I think so. It's just like how stringent you are with them.
Yeah, I'm not that strict. I don't think I am.
Because I think a lot of people see it as a zero-sum game where like their partner's either got everything or they're none at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, they've either got the full package or they're not on board.
Yeah. So that's
whereas I think it's a give and take, isn't it? I think you've got to recognise, all right, they've got these qualities, but they lack in that. But, you know, we can work at it.
Well, yeah, even if they are lacking something, it's like, well, is it a deal breaker? Then fucking fine.
Yeah. This is where icks become an issue. You know,
also,
ick culture.
This is where, you know what James Smith says, where it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. That's where that gets unpacked as well. Speaking to Jimmy, we're going to have on, actually. And so I said that to him, and he was like, yeah, but that's fucking really flawed. Because if you say it, because you can find something wrong with anyone. And so if you have that attitude, you're never going to fucking find anyone. Humans
are hardwired to pick out the negatives. It's negativity bias, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're presented with 3 positives and a negative, you'll focus on the one negative.
Yeah. And so the example would be someone with 6 good qualities and 1 poor quality that you don't like, and you would just identify that one and be like, well, they've got this.
Yeah. So say they're like they're good rig.
Yeah.
They're like good to go looks wise.
Isn't that the same thing?
No, as in like, I don't know, facial.
Two aesthetic ones straight off the bat.
They're really nice person. They've got a good rig and they've got a good sense of humour. But then they're in the raff reg.
Yeah.
You've got to look past that.
Nah. Fuck that.
You know what you mean, though. We need to talk about icks as well, though, because this is a real bugbear of mine.
That's bullshit, that is, by the way.
Right, and my particular bugbear is the 6 foot bollocks.
Yeah, fuck. Right. That's bullshit. That is.
I know loads
I'm not 6 foot.
I know loads of blokes who are 6 foot who are hats.
Yeah.
And I'm 5'9" and I'm hoofing.
Well, there you go. You just unpick that, basically. Yeah. I mean, but it's bollocks. It's so arbitrary.
This is the embodiment of how flawed that kind of like all or nothing logic is.
Yeah.
Because it's an arbitrary number.
It's funny though, because now they've done that, like, there's an actual app, I think, that people use when they go around talking to these people. And they're like, okay, so it needs to be 6 foot. They're like, yeah. It needs to be good looking. They're like, yeah. It needs to be earning 6 figures. Like, yeah. Okay, it needs to be whatever. And they cover off these things, which are like common, the basic white girl's going to want, right? And they're like, okay, well, your man sits in the top 0.1% of men, and it's like, do you think you're gonna find him? Like, yeah, they're so delusional, mate. It's what are you talking about?
That literally proves my point.
Yeah.
And I know blokes are just as delusional, but it works both ways, doesn't it? Because if both camps are like that, then there's no hope for anyone.
It's supply and demand, though, isn't it? Because blokes are inherently more like willing to try something, I feel, whereas women, especially now with like the social media era and stuff, people being, you're able now to see a super successful man, or you're able to see the bloke who's shredded, or, you know, you're able to see like Idris Elba, or, you know what I mean, like,
yeah.
So they're going to obviously put them on a pedestal and actually think, actually, this guy I'm dating, he's fucking nowhere near Idris Elba level of wealth, good looks, and fucking whatever talent. And so actually, I don't want him. I'm going to wait out until Idris Elba comes along. Newsflash, love. Idris Elba's not going to come on. Not going to come on.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So the maximizer there is waiting indefinitely because they are never going to find the right person.
Yeah, and so a lot of these girls would fall into maximizer.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a testament to how traumatized I am. I think I'm all three, particularly
Really?
number 3.
Yeah, I can identify number 3.
So we know I'm number 3 because I am Mr. Beta Test.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking when you said that. Yeah, hesitant. Okay, beta test. So, actually, going back, though, I was thinking, speaking to girls, like real people, not fucking the TikTok interviews that are probably faked.
Yeah, not
Like-
the online chat rooms that you join late at night.
Yeah. So, talking to real people, like, the thing with the 6 foot thing, and to be fair, there's a caveat here, because they're probably just being nice, because I'm not 6 foot, right? Because I'll sometimes ask about that, and they'll be like, no, as long as they're taller than me, it's cool. So I think it's a bit of a red herring that they put across. They're like, oh, 6 foot. But actually, most girls, if they're taller, it's or our
So
same
is the
same
6 foot
height.
thing a synonym basically for as long as you're taller than me?
I would imagine
Because
so.
putting minimum 6 foot or whatever is a lot more concise than saying
As long as you're taller.
you've got to be taller than me, so that
In
when I
heels.
wear
In
when I
3-inch
wear
heels.
heels, I'm not bigger than you.
I think that is more the case, isn't it? But I again, what the fuck difference that make? Do
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Who cares? Anyway, so
You
you're
won't be wearing heels anyway because we bagging off all the time.
right. That's your maximizer again. So you think you're all 3?
Yeah.
So maximizer, talk to me. Why do you think you fall into that?
Because again, like I'm in no position to judge because I'm gopping. But I just pick it like
Faults.
completely arbitrary flaws in people.
Did you used to do that before you 2 relos?
Yeah, I think I've always had an element of that because I'm quite a negatively minded person, aren't I?
Mm.
As we've discussed
discussed.
before on the pod. Yeah, I am quite.
So
And then
you
I think
will-
university did me dirty there because it just made me think critically, not just about work,
Everything.
but about everything.
So even relationships which are inherently illogical.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, I mean it's a difficult one to get out of. I think the maximizer thing, but I think being aware of it is huge.
yeah. If
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if anything, right? If you're listening out, right, we'll do a Chris Williamson here. What can you take out of this podcast?
Yeah,
Have a think about your previous track record with relationships and try and unpack it a bit, like we have today.
Yeah.
And work out where you're at, and then work to be better and improve.
yeah, agreed. So like this is it. So as soon as you know, it's like everything. As soon as you know where you're at and what like you can identify what it is you're doing in relationships or in encounters or whatever, you can probably work backwards a little bit, can't you? So something that Yuri says that I thought was pretty good. I don't know if you got this far or listened to the whole thing, but like she was like, well, a lot of people are waiting for the perfect person, so this is the maximizer. What you actually should do is think back to the last person who was pretty decent, right? And then just try and beat that. So if you then meet someone who makes you feel the same, who's like ticking all the same boxes, and then you think back to that other person who you had a maybe good connection with or a good relationship with, and you think actually this person's same or better, then this person is the one you should try and build with.
I think there's an actual scientific number, isn't
It's
there?
37.
Is it 37?
That's what she said.
Yeah.
37% or something.
I can't remember. It's either something. You'll have to go and listen to the episode. I don't want to do a disservice, but it's either like high 20s or high 30s. I can't
I
remember.
think it's 37.
37. So if you get to 37 kind of like partners,
or dates,
or
serious
dates.
dates, I guess.
statistically you will have found like your quote unquote perfect. So if you get to that point, 37, you know the next person that kind of hits that criteria after that point
Yeah.
will be the one.
Yeah, so you need to then stop looking for people who are perfect.
Yeah.
And
So,
try and build something.
so to
with
reiterate
person.
that, get to 37 and then look back on the 37 and identify the one. And then the next one that comes along that either matches that or surpasses them is the one, statistically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, watch the episode to get the correct number because I don't want to put a false picture
Which
in your
also emphasises the point of like putting yourself out there.
And you know, supposedly you're supposed to hit that at like our age now.
Yeah, 26.1. She said. That's good.
So that's good.
Yeah, Austin. Here we go.
Yeah. Can't wait to find a cowgirl.
Yeah. Get a green card.
Tongue went there.
Yeah,
We're going Austin as well.
Fire
Fire up the Quattro.
Yeah, I can't wait to get a green card from a cowgirl.
Yeah,
She's fabulous.
I've got 6 weeks. Spoiler alert. I've got 6 weeks to get a green card marriage.
Yeah, and I will be using all the dating apps for that.
Let him cook.
Yeah.
Right,
so I've got 6 weeks to go on 37 dates in Austin. Is that what you're saying?
We do the math on that. But I think that is a good point on which to end section 1 of the podcast.
Yes,
so we'll have a quick wee break now,
Yep.
and then we'll be back to paint the perfect picture of how you should date and what your relationship should look like.
So we'll see you in part 2.
Hello, and welcome back to section 2 of this dating and relationship masterclass that we put on for you.
Hopefully you're enjoying it so far. Listen to all our traumas get up aired, our dirty laundry. But yeah. So we're going to go into now how they can sort of.
Yeah, so we're going to try and piece all of that trauma together now, basically.
Fantastic.
So let's start with good dating habits.
Okay. So
let's
do you
draw
mean dating as in when you're in a relationship or before?
No, as in when you're trying to find someone, like habits that you should try and enact.
I like it.
Both as in so like mindsets that you should adopt as an individual, but then things that you should try and orchestrate on the date, which will encourage it to go better.
I like this because I'm going to give a lot of advice here that I don't follow.
Yeah. So just to caveat this, I haven't been on a date for about a year. So
I have been on a date with not with the correct intentions.
Are you going to talk about the obvious?
Nah.
We'll leave that for a rainy day.
Yeah, we'll leave that for a rainy day. Yeah. So effectively.
Or do you want to go back and forth? Because I've made a list.
Okay.
Do you want to go through the list?
We'll go through the list. I'll add any I think I need to.
Right, okay,
All
good.
right.
So I've got 4, but some of them can be broken down further.
Let's go.
Right, okay. Number 1, you've got to have the mindset of having fun. I think a lot...
On the date?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
we're on the date now.
A lot of people go into a date with the mindset of being a job interview. You know, they've got to sell their achievements.
Yeah, it's like go in there with a CV like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately it does come across like a job interview. You're just too serious. Like people want to have fun with their partner.
Yeah.
It's like a friendship, but you just bag them off.
Effectively.
You don't want to like that boring mate who comes to the pub
and spits out like fixture details and shit.
Yeah, like proper winkle pickers who are like football noses and then never leave their grot. People like him, and then he turns up to the pub and has a Coke, and you're like, not him again.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't date the female or, you know, like the male equivalent of that.
Or don't be the male equivalent of that, I think is the thing.
Yeah, or then don't go for that person.
Yeah, okay, yeah, cool. So
basically, you need to adopt the mindset of this is a fun experience. This shouldn't be serious. We're not trying to sell each other.
You shouldn't be too nervous. Don't put too much pressure on it either. Like, it's funny. I'll often put pressure on the fact, this is hilarious. I'm going to kiss him at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like that's
completely odd. You're going in with the wrong intention there, aren't
100%. So that frames the entire date then, and that's shit. So you want to, again, like you say, go in, see if you vibe on like see if you connect on anything or have same interests or have a good time together. So there are people you don't have a good time with. That's fine.
And ultimately, if you have a good laugh with someone and you get on like a house on fire, you won't be threaders at the end of the day if you don't kiss them.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, if you've had a good time, you will do. So
exactly. So it's win-win. Really.
Yeah. So you're better off taking the pressure off yourself, ain't you? And then you can just have a good time. And the nerves should be there because it's normal to you're going out with a fucking stranger. So effectively, it's going to be nerve-wracking. But like you say, don't think of it as I've got to sell myself because you haven't.
And speaking of selling yourself, this comes into point 2. So number 1 was fun. Number 2 is you've got to show emotional vulnerability.
Correct.
As in you've got to give them something to latch onto. Because if you try and sell yourself as like the polished real deal, you're not giving them anything. You're just gonna effectively push them away.
Yeah. Because they've got nothing they can permeate.
Well, exactly. There's nothing for them to latch onto there. Because if you give off like a polished, shiny persona, what have they got to work with there?
Yeah, exactly.
It goes back to the job interview thing. Like, tell stories, not facts.
It's the same as on social media.
Yeah.
So like most accounts that grow well on social media are accounts that show you vulnerability. Accounts that just show the finished product and the kind of I'm all squared away, all singing, all dancing. Those accounts are a bit fucking. You look at them and you go, I can't really connect with that, so I'm not gonna engage. And that's the same thing with the date.
Yeah, like don't talk about how hoofing you are at your job and all the promotions that you've had. Like share something vulnerable about how it's not what you want to do long term, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or like I think it's a good idea as well to figure out ambitions, statuses, because people have such different ambitions and different levels of that. So, like, I think if you can talk about maybe your future ambition or whatever it is, and see actually if they align at all.
But
And
yeah,
don't
just
lie
go a
either,
bit basically kill small talk. Go a bit deeper than surface level.
Yeah, but obviously have some sort of rapport building first. You don't
Yeah, I was
wanna
gonna say,
straight
don't
first
go-
sentence.
No,
So,
what-
is your parents still alive?
There is a bit of an art here. Like, don't overshare, but equally don't go in with like the job interview small talk mentality of kind of sell yourself as like, well, I've got so many qualifications. Like, who gives a shit about that, really?
That's not. Yeah, you're not there for that, are you?
Exactly.
The effect,
But people, I think, perceive it like it is a job interview because it's like, right, this is my life partner, so we have to be compatible. She needs to know, or like he needs to know, they need
they're
to
trying
know.
to prove themselves.
Yeah, they need to know that I am like the real deal and that they should want to be with me. But really, that's just going to make them think, who's this fucking square who's brought his CV with him to a date? I just want to have a laugh.
Yeah,
I've had a shit
exactly,
day at
yeah.
work. I want to have fun and unwind a bit.
Yeah, and if you can't do that on the first, you're not going to have anything, I think. And also, I would add to that, don't talk about your ex too much. And if you do talk about your ex, don't talk about them in such a fucking like negative way, because all that does is say, okay, well, that's going to happen to me, or that's going to be how you talk about me. Do you know what I mean?
It's weird, right? Because that seems obvious, but
It's not,
so
mate.
Many people fall foul of it.
Mate, the amount of times I've been on the receiving end of that is insane. It's difficult not to, right? Because you're in that sphere again.
But I don't think
You're
there's
in a relationship sphere, so you're like, okay, well, talking about my last relationship.
there's nothing wrong with acknowledging it. Because ultimately it will arrive. You know, it's
it.
your past. You can't escape it.
I say so. Talk about it, but don't talk about it in a negative, really negative. Don't say, "Oh, my ex was this." Passing the blame.
Yeah, my ex was a psycho, but it didn't scar me.
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to be red flag completely. And yeah, identify red flags.
Yes. Right, so that's 1 and 2. So they're more kind of like mental states that
Yeah.
I think you need to adopt going into the date.
Yeah.
Let's now talk about the actual mise en scène, so to speak, which is
Okay.
the environment of a good date.
Yeah.
So I've broken this down into 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is try and orchestrate a date scenario where you're not facing each other.
Yeah.
This has been proven by
the car seat theory.
Yes, this has been proven by researchers. Actually, this is actual scientific fact. This isn't just one of my obscure kind of opinions. This is backed by behavioural science.
Mm.
It goes back to like childhood state of play, doesn't it? I think, whereby
Yeah,
like if you're
yeah.
preoccupied and not making eye contact, it makes it easier to open up and communicate.
Yeah, because it's not like, again, linking back to interview, it's not that interview-esque environment, because humans are very good at association. So if you're sat across from someone, asking them questions, having them answer it, it feels a lot like an interview. Whereas if you're, like, say, walking with someone or on the same sofa as someone facing one way, it feels like you're there with your friend or your mate or whatever. Or it feels like you're walking with someone you've known for ages.
So this is where like activities like walking and stuff can be good.
Yeah.
Because it kind of encourages the state where you're not facing each other effectively. But then if you do find yourself in an environment where you are facing each other, you can still manipulate it so that you're not. So if you're in a bar, for example, don't sit on a table facing each other.
Sit on the same side.
Sit on the same side or sit at the bar.
Yeah.
On the high
yeah,
seats.
Yeah, so there's
Go on.
yeah.
Intrusive thought number 2.
Well,
we went about an hour without an intrusive thought then.
In the obvious where you told me to go,
Yeah.
there's so if you go through into that second room, there's like
Yeah.
2 sofas.
Yeah.
And the sofa's quite far away, so rather than sitting opposite each other on the sofas, which are like fucking miles away, shouting at each other, sat on the same sofa, and it like works really well because again the same, like you're kind of facing outwards and you're chatting like your mate sat on a sofa watching fucking TV or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Rather than
This is something else that needs to be addressed as well. We've done well not to mention it so far. I'm great at giving relationship and dating advice, right? And I don't take any of it on board myself.
yeah, that's the same thing with everything. Like I'm good at giving advice in regards to like protecting your sleep. Shit at taking it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that
Like,
is true. We are, but I think my particular niche is relationships.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
Yeah, you're pretty good.
I know what needs to happen, and like I'm great at then telling people what they need to do. But because I'm a hesitator, I know what needs to happen in my own love life, but then because I'm a hesitator, I don't.
So why do you think you don't? I know because you're a hesitator, but that's not really an answer. Like, what? Why?
Because I have that firm belief that like, but like I need to do X, Y, Z first.
Something needs to happen first before.
Yeah.
So it's like a story you tell yourself.
Yeah.
It's like
it's again, and it's good that we've identified this.
It's a self story. Yeah, exactly. It's a story you tell yourself, and that'll be. So it happens for you in relationships. What?
I was just about to throw hesitation onto the fire. Negative thought.
Spazzy babies.
Equally valid.
Anyway, so yeah, so it happens for you. Happens for you with relationships. Happens with a lot of people with career advancement or with whatever. So whatever like big decision or big thing you've got to do, a lot of people will tell themselves, "Oh well, mate, what if this happens? What if this doesn't work out? Whatever." If you can switch that self story to something a little bit more positive, so like, what if? So the classic trite example for the relationship scenario is, I guess if you're saying to yourself, what if rejection? What if they don't reply? What if all these kinds of things which are negative? You could easily flip that to, what if it's the best decision I make today? What if this turns out into a flourishing relationship? Because it could, and they're not equal possibilities, but they are fucking possibilities.
It's the skin in the game thing again. Like, it's so easy to get, it's like objective, because like when you're giving advice to someone else, it's objective, isn't it? You can see what needs to happen, so you're telling them. But it's easy for you.
There's also no risk on your part.
That's what I mean. So I think that plays into it as well.
Yeah, I think
because
right.
like coming from someone who used to and probably still to like a large extent has low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Like the risk associated with a lot of these decisions would undoubtedly, if they went the wrong way, further damage
that self-esteem.
My self-esteem.
Yeah, true. But I don't think there's always a reframe you can have. Like,
oh no, I'm not saying that is like the definitive answer. I'm just I'm just acknowledging my flaw, and it needs to be worked on. Like you said, I need to work on.
You just need reframing a little bit, and it's all about consistent little actions, which is like everything. It's not about fucking, I didn't. Maybe you don't take action at one time or whatever it is, and then you start to tell yourself that story again. You've got to always course correct and think, actually, well, I need to think this now. Think this now. So it's like it's easy said than done. But and again, that risk taking thing is a thing, isn't it? But anyway,
we got slightly sidetracked there. So anyway, so we were on environment and we discussed not facing each other. Next on my list is you need to be somewhere, and again, this sounds obvious, but people forget it. You need to be somewhere where you look and feel good.
Correct. Yeah. So like,
do you want me to unpack that a bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
So like, the environment plays a big part in the date. So say if you always go on dates but none of them work out, but it turns out you're always going on a date in your break at work in the Costa Coffee next to the building that you work at in your work clobber.
Yeah,
you will associate that. You don't feel sexy in your fucking office attire, do you?
No, so you're right. So you've got to have somewhere where you can get a bit fucking dolled up, you smell nice, you can do whatever.
Or not even like dolled up, but just like wear clothing and be in an environment where you feel confident.
Yeah,
basically. You don't have to associate that with going out and boozing or alcohol, but like your domain effectively.
Yeah, so where you're comfortable, yeah. So whatever. So this is a hard thing though, because the gym's my fucking domain. But I don't think a date in the gym would go amazingly. I haven't done it, to be honest. It might do. Who knows?
Yeah, you don't know that for sure, but I'm the same. Like, I don't think I'd like
There's
that.
a little bit
but
of reservation.
There are more. It doesn't have to be like the place where you feel most confident, I guess. It just needs to be a place where you feel confident.
Yeah, true. A dog walk is fantastic if we're going to pick out an individual environment. Do you know what I mean? Because first of all, there's a dog involved, which is good from
dogs make everything better.
It's good from every angle, innit? Do you know what I mean? So first of all, you can identify red flags. If they don't like dogs, they're out. Yeah.
Well, the date doesn't go ahead if they don't like dogs.
That's one thing. Okay, so fantastic. You've already boxed them off because they're psychopaths. So you've got like, if the chat's a bit stale or whatever, you've got the dog to interact with. So then that's a little bit of a cop out you can have.
You always got the fail safe of, if the conversation goes a bit dry, you can talk about what the dog's doing.
Exactly.
Because undoubtedly it'll be doing something retarded. So.
Yes. So then, and also you're walking, so you're not falling foul of facing each other. You're in kind of hopefully a scenic area. Yeah, which is decent.
So you'll always have the view to talk about. You're in the because you're moving. You're in a changing landscape as well, so it's dynamic. Different things will be happening around you. It's not static. You're not in a restaurant where the view is the same.
Yeah, each other. So I think dog walks are a really good one if you've got a dog. Don't just steal the dog and just go on dates.
Yeah, and then the third one is no phones. And again, this is backed by scientific research.
Yeah, I fully agree.
So like now, I've fallen foul of it myself. We all do. The face down phone still limits the amount of connection you can have with someone.
Yeah, so this is Simon Sinek, isn't it?
Because in the corner of your mind, it's still on the table. You're still conscious of it, and you know it could go off at any point.
You know what's funny? So even that, if it's on vibrate, say, and say you're talking to someone and someone's telling you something really important, okay. If that phone vibrates at that point, even if you can't see the screen, just because you can hear it, even if you hear it go off, your thoughts are immediately go from what they're saying, and you go, wonder who that is, wonder if that's important, wonder if this, wonder if what, and so it's a really good thing to have it fucking flight mode. It's done. It's not a thing for that, because that interaction is important. That initial connection with them, and if you're tainting that with your phone, even having it fucking, like you say, face down on the desk, the worst thing would be, if there's a bit of a dead point in the convo, and then you're like, yeah.
Because we do that now, just out of habit, don't we? Because we're conditioned to it.
I felt myself do it the other day. So the other day I was on a date, and maybe like, I don't know, whatever, you finish talking about something, she's taking a drink, whatever it is. And I'm like, I reach my phone, I'm like that. No.
Right, so you can be having like a really organic conversation, and then the minute it falls flat, we're now hardwired and conditioned to just reach for your phone. It's a reflex. You don't even think about it.
It's insane. The best thing is, so where your apps are on your fucking phone, don't you? If you move them around, watch what happens. It's fucking havoc, mate. If you move like Instagram to a different thing or whatever, you inevitably will open your phone. You'll go. You can do it with your eyes because you go, oh, it's about there. But you'll do that and it'll be something else. It'll be like you're so programmed to do this fucking one motion. It's mental. But anyway, that's a good example. You are hardwired. As soon as something's quiet, to go like that.
Yeah. So just be upfront about it at the start of the date. Be like, look, I feel like for the benefit of the date, we should just agree on like leaving our phones in our pockets.
Yeah.
Because then you're both on the same.
You're both on the same page. Then
you're both on the same page.
If she pulls it out, or whatever, you're not then thinking, fucking bastard, because you haven't told her.
Yeah, exactly. Or turn it into a game. So, like, the first person that checks their phone has to buy a round of drinks or something.
Yeah, that's
or has to get a coffee.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It.
Turn it into
smash an espresso.
Turn it into a game. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet.
And so the fourth point, which kind of leans on environment, but is separate, is sobriety.
Yeah.
And this isn't. Yeah. So this isn't. Well, I feel like people who regularly listen to the podcast will know how we feel about this. I'm still grappling with it in my mind. But I think
dating sober.
If it's not necessarily like a non-negotiable, I think it's something you should at least consider. I think it should be consideration.
So what it does is it means you can make obviously rational decisions about what you're doing with that person. However, if it's going to stop you going on dates, as in like you're too apprehensive, too nervous without alcohol to not go on a date, then it's not a good thing, because it's not ROI positive of that scenario, is it? Because you're like, actually, without the inebriation, I ain't gonna fucking be confident enough to even speak to him. Then maybe lubricate it a little bit, but if you can at all like avoid it, like going on a dog walk or going to a coffee shop or whatever, then I would 100% recommend that, because like you say, you can make a lot more rational decisions, and your judgments don't become impaired as the evening goes on.
Yeah, so if you do a bit of a cost benefit analysis, like you said, the main positive is like activation energy, isn't it?
Well, that, and it just flows slightly better.
Yeah, it's a social lubricant. So that's a positive, and like if you're a bit anxious, then it might help. And then obviously on the flip side of that, you've basically got two categories. You've got authenticity. So obviously if you're sober, you're conveying your true self or a truer self.
Yeah, unless you're always pissed, otherwise.
Yeah, unless you're an alcoholic, in which case you probably wouldn't want to be fucking dating anyway. It would be
true.
Morally wrong.
Yeah.
And then like mental health wise as well, like you said, if you get drunk, you don't make rational decisions, you end up bagging people off who you wouldn't ordinarily bag off. Yeah. And then you wake up with the fear in the morning.
Yeah, so not ideal. And also you sink loads of money. So imagine you've got to go on 37 dates to get a fucking to get a partner. If you spend £100 on each date because you're boozing, it's £3,500 you've sunk into finding a fucking mate, innit? Which is mental. So yeah, I would agree. I think from a financial state, it's probably wise as well. I think like a coffee goes a long way. So like if you go to a coffee shop say you go on, say this is your date, right? You go on a walk and you end at a coffee shop, for example. Lovely, wholesome, right? And then you might have 2 coffees each, £12, okay, in a good coffee shop somewhere. I don't know, maybe £16. Anyway, that's fucking nothing. If you go to a bar, because inherently, for some reason, like alcohol, you have like 5 or 6, don't you, to start feeling the effects. So you're having 5 or 6 each. It's easy, like £150, £100.
Yeah, so it's not a cost-effective way to date drinking.
Exactly, and like I say, if you've got to go on a lot of them, like we said, to find who it is you need, then it's fucking stupid.
Yeah, if you go on a coffee date and have like 3 decent coffees, fuck, mate, the amount of caffeine in your system, you probably get married there and then.
Well, this is it. So you're on about like conveying your true self. You're conveying your caffeinated self.
Yeah, which is dangerous.
Yeah, that's the way I'm on a sales call. Fantastic. Yeah, cool.
But they're the 4 that I came up with for good dating habits. I don't know if you got anything to add to that. I feel like we sprinkled a few extras in there.
Yeah. I would say kind of no booze. I would say like try and work it into maybe something you do already, so it's not an effort.
Yeah, that kind of feeds into
like the micro date that James Smith talks about. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that
like
feeds
we'll do like a 15-minute mini date before we actually go on a proper date. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
I think that's cool.
That feeds into being an environment where you feel comfortable and confident.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just talking about the level of investment.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Time and energy.
Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't agree to go on like the country's biggest zip line on your first date.
Because again, like if you don't like that person, you're gonna meet him, and you've just sat down for an hour's dinner. So then you're fucking hell.
Yeah, and also you might not like the restaurant and or activity that you're doing if you've never been there before.
Yeah. So what you can do is say you this is it, right? So this is the funnel. So you meet someone organically. It never happens, but say you get someone's number. Yeah, whatever, and then you schedule like a fucking 15-minute walk to get coffee, and then you're gonna have a chat. So you have a chat while you walk to get coffee. If you like them, then you can make that decision whether you want to pursue a proper date or not. I think that little intermission in the funnel is probably useful.
Because if it turns out they're giving like Josef Fritzl vibes on the walk to the coffee shop, then
probably call it there and then.
You know, a white lie never hurt anyone. Say like, look, something's come up. Like I've got
get your mate to text you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh fucking hell! You're in hospital. I gotta go.
Because you're just kidding. You're wasting both. You're wasting both of your times otherwise.
So I think that's probably a useful thing, and not something I've done actually. I think it's easier if you live somewhere interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's fun. It's true though, isn't it? Anyway, go on.
Anything else, or should we move on to kind of healthy relationship criteria?
What about before the date? We've jumped in.
What do you mean before the date? You can unpack this indefinitely then. This comes back into like the hesitator. Do you know what I mean? Well,
fundamentally, you've got to get to the date, haven't you? That's the hard bit, really, for most people. Surely getting to the date's the hard bit.
Yeah, but the whole point was these were good dating habits. Yeah. So it's like the assumption is you're in the field of dating. It's not getting you to the date. It's you've got a date lined up. How should you approach it?
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, I think what most people struggle with is getting that initial date scheduled in. I don't think people struggle once the date's on as much.
Well, we unpack the mindset that you need to have. You need to address whether you're a romanticizer, a maximizer, or a hesitator.
Yeah,
and then work to do those things less.
I'm just thinking through the lens of like, where do you meet people? Because we've said dating.
Well, we've said dating apps.
The shit, we've said it.
But we've got to be realistic. You've accused me of this in the past because we're falling foul of our own advice here because we can't. Ultimately, statistically, you are most likely to meet someone on a dating app, and if you don't meet them on a dating app, like you're not Walter Mitty, you can't invent an imaginary life for you. If you're not meeting them on a dating app or on Instagram, you've got to meet them organically in your day-to-day life. So that'll just vary for everyone, won't it?
I guess so, but surely there's more action people could take. Like certainly, we know if we see someone when we're sober that we like, we are not going to approach them. Is that not an issue?
All right, well, that's something that you can do. Think of people in your life that you're attracted to And then if you normally have the thought of, oh, there's no way I could physically approach them sober, you know, say like it's one of them where like you tell yourself, oh well, when I see them in the pub next time, right, address that, identify those people, bite the bullet, and just message them.
Yeah, message them. I think it's probably the most 2023 way to do it.
It isn't like don't go up to them and like because again that's being unrealistic. Like,
but it's not though, is it? Why? That annoys
but like
me.
you can.
That's my romanticisation. But that annoys me because that shouldn't be.
I know, but
you should be able to go up to a girl in a coffee shop and say, "I think you're pretty. What's your number?" But
you should. But like
why don't you?
But like equally, I don't think they'd be because it's so normalised. I don't think they'd think you were being Jack if you just messaged them. They'd probably find it less uncomfortable.
Yeah, but what's your hit rate? So if you just message someone randomly, probably not going to reply. If you're there and you're like, "What's your number?" They either give you a real number or a fake number. Job done.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that. We leave that to listeners' discretion.
I like to romanticize as we've.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to fall foul. I don't want to come across as hypocritical here.
No,
I don't want to paint.
The only reason I'm saying it is because I need to do it more.
Yeah, so I think that's a good one. So I think, you know, people that you know, like day to day, you might work with them, or they might go to the same coffee shop that you drink at, or you might always pass them when you do like your lunchtime walk or something.
Yeah.
People like that who you already know in your life, who you think are attractive, but as soon as you think in your mind they're attractive, you get the second thought of, but there's no way I'd ever approach them unless I was drunk. Then address that and think, well, I'm never going to... The chances of me meeting them in the pub are like 1 in 100 visits or whatever, depending on how much of a piss can you and they are.
Yeah. Hopefully not that
And then be like, well, I've got to message them then, because how else is it going to happen?
Yeah, and ultimately, at some point, you've just got to ask. So, like, if you are messaging back and forth, and you're thinking, well, this is a bit dead. Well, the reason it's dead is you haven't fucking met them yet. So, you know what I mean? So, like, at some point, you've just got to ask. It's like, if the conversation's been distilled down to, hey, how are you? How's your day been? It's like, fuck me. Right, okay, at some point, you've just got to go, do you want to go out somewhere? And if they go, yeah, then sweet.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then sweet.
And the fail-safe of that is if there's no one in your life like that you identify as attractive and would like to message but are too nervous to, then you're going to have to go out of your way to find them, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because if they're not already in your fucking life, they're not like, there's no, as we've established, there's no divine cosmic justice at play.
You've got to do some lead generation.
Exactly. We use a business term, lead generation.
Yeah.
You've got to find them because they're not going to be bestowed upon you.
I'm very good at that. It's the next stage. I'm not very good at. Anyway, I'm good at lead gen in both respects, but in terms of like qualifying my leads and sales, I'm pretty shit.
Well, I think that's tangible advice, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not unrealistic.
No, I think it is. Yeah, but again, I wanted to identify like the in-person thing because it's something that never happens, and I certainly don't do it. I want to know. I might do a poll on Instagram, but probably not. But I want to know how many people actually approach someone in real life not drunk. Do you know?
I wouldn't. Be full like transparency.
I know you wouldn't, but I don't see why. Like it's madness because it's just we all know, right, that we need to try and find someone. That's just and so the more you fucking do that, the surely the better chance you have.
I know we're terrible at it in this country. They're a lot better at it in other parts of Europe because they're a lot more upfront about their feelings.
Yeah, true.
I think we hide too much behind our ego.
Yeah,
really.
Massively. Yes, you don't want your ego to be dented by
but whereas I've like
rejection.
the limited interaction that I've had with females from the continent, they're a lot more upfront about it, and it almost comes across a bit like too much,
a bit brash
because we're not
used to it.
Yeah, because we're all very kind of like stiff upper lip and
yeah.
So that's worth bearing in mind. Go to Scandinavia, get Scandi-Lenga.
Yeah, well, this is my maximizer thing. Though that's what I'm waiting for. Go on.
Right, so let's again. I only have 2 written for this, and I think this is more individual now.
Okay.
So healthy relationship criteria, I think probably is more nuanced.
Okay, so what's your first?
Sexual attraction.
Okay.
There has to be some kind of sexual compatibility there.
I agree.
I know people like to pretend that
that's bullshit.
You can see past it, and you can see past looks to a certain extent, but ultimately there has to be some sexual spark. Otherwise, it's going nowhere.
The difference.
Otherwise, it's platonic.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a friendship.
The difference between a friendship and not a friendship is the sex. Right?
You're either bagging off or you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately,
you either want to bag him off or you don't. And to be fair, that is a depreciating asset as you get older. But I think initially it has to be a thing.
Yeah.
definitely. I agree. And I think, yeah. What's your second one? Because that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah.
Honesty, openness,
Honesty, integrity. Yeah, yeah.
which again I think is self-explanatory. It's easy to say, but it's harder to do, isn't it? You have to be able to communicate with each other and be like, look, I've had a shit day because of X, Y, Z, or I don't like it when you do this. You know, and not in a confrontational way, but you need to be able to work through stuff, basically, because it's not all going to be plain sailing, is it?
This is where, and this is something that I don't think, first of all, I don't think a lot of people would be open to, but purely because it sounds like you're running a business. No, Jen, but like...
Send your partner a check-in form every week.
No, literally, though. So, so I think, genuinely, every Sunday you could do a version of, okay... What's gone well? What hasn't gone well? What have you been pissed off with? What have I been pissed off? And you just lay your cards out.
Make it anonymous to take the edge off.
Yeah,
even though there's only one form.
Give her a type form at the end of the week.
Yeah, you're a cunt. Why would you call me a cunt? It's anonymous. It's anonymous.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, effectively, like a weekly roundup fucking review thing where you're like, okay, what are we happy with? What are we not happy with? Are we moving in the right direction that we want to be moving in? I think. Maybe not every week, every 2 weeks, whatever. I think people frown on that.
Bi-monthly.
Yeah, I think people frown on that because it sounds too forensic. But it's how, like, you have to continually evaluate. Otherwise, like everything, you will inevitably start going through the motions, stop putting the effort in, and then it just unravels. And that's what happens in every relationship, that people get too comfortable and they stop putting the effort in, and then it starts to fizzle out. If every fucking 2 weeks I was like, all right, well, I didn't like how you did that, or I think we should put more effort into this part or whatever, then it's not going to happen.
This is where... See, I agree with you. That's rational. This is where relationships are inherently irrational. Because on paper, that's a great idea.
Mm.
If you had a missus and you presented that idea to you, I guarantee there would be an argument about it.
It depends on the missus, does it? I don't know. It definitely does. I think it depends how you framed it. If you framed it as, oh, okay, this is what we do with my clients, this is what I'm going to do with you, then it's probably not ideal. But if you framed it as, okay, I want to make sure this relationship is continually going in the right direction, a direction we both want it to go in, I think the best way to do that is to review every 2 weeks to see if we are doing that, then maybe.
I think it's a great idea, but it would take, I think, a lot of activation energy as a couple. That's the kind of thing that you do when you go to therapy.
But why not preempt it?
This is what I'm saying. But this is, people treat their health in the same way.
No, exactly.
I think I'm not. This is a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and say that people inherently don't know what's good.
Well, that's
for
why
them.
I caveated it by saying, like, this is probably difficult to get over the line.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be 100% ROI positive in terms of, because again, it just stop you going through the motions. Because if every week your missus was like, actually, I don't like how you fucking didn't make me coffee every morning this week, or you forgot to do X, Y, and Z, you didn't get me whatever it was, you could go, okay, well, next week I'll do that. And then it's that's but nips in the bud,
that's literally just about to say that's great because you nip it in the bud before it grows arms and legs.
Exactly. And before, and it comes back to your honesty point, before she's going, fucking hell, he hasn't done that for a couple of weeks. He hasn't done that. He hasn't bought me flowers. And then she's fuming, and then you don't know why she's fuming, and then it all fucking ends up, doesn't it? So I think, comment below if you're still listening. Comment below or DM us if you agree, disagree, or otherwise with that proposition.
So we've got honesty, we've got sexual attraction. What else?
We're gonna. So again, like I said before, with my old one. So like,
let's try and keep it to 3.
Okay, so I think effort.
Yeah, all right.
So I think that comes under effort.
You can, you can. I guess you can package that up in a lot of different ways, but ultimately, you've got to be willing.
It's a project.
Yeah, you've got to be able to work at it.
Yeah, it's not like, okay, we're together now, sweet. It's a project, continual project.
Yeah, so that ties into what we were just... they're interlinked, aren't they, honesty and effort? Because, the honesty part is the addressing the problem, and then the effort is the commitment to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you need both for it to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the effort piece is huge, though, because a lot of people just expect it to work because they're in love or whatever.
I think that's probably what most people fail on, ultimately.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, I'm not an expert, but I think it's easy to address a problem, and this goes for everything in life. It's easy to pick faults in something, but it's hard to address it and amend it.
Yeah, because it takes effort.
Because it takes effort.
Yeah, and you're already expending effort and energy on everything else in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. But I think that's a massive point. Because again, people just expect it to work because, oh well, we're both in love. Well, great, but you know, very quickly, like we've said, like people can start to look elsewhere because you're not continually putting in effort and continually. It's almost like it's fucking so Chad, but like it's almost like the Navy SEALs will say, you have to earn your trident every day. Right. So that means the trident is what they get given at the end of training, like the Green Beret for the Marines. So they're like, well, you've done training, cool, you're in. However, you've got to earn that right every day. So you've got to be a good SEAL every day.
Yeah.
Same thing. You've got to be a good partner every day.
Yeah. Fundamentally, Navy SEALs have to earn the right every day to stand toe to toe with the RAF Reg in the bar.
Right. I love that. Yeah, I can't wait to clip that up. On a relationships episode, somehow we got...
I can't wait to finally interview a Navy SEAL one day.
And him fold you in half. That'll be good.
Well, yeah. Sexually, hopefully.
Right.
That's you now. We won't talk about that. We'll save that for a rainy day, because the obvious needs unpacking.
Yeah, well, I'll do it for a bit longer.
I don't want to pull the trigger on that yet.
Nah.
I can get an hour of material out of that.
Yeah,
so,
well,
you know what I mean?
Wait, it's on a black belt in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right, okay.
Anyway, go on.
So that's the three. I think we should cap it at that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think it's like...
That's a good time.
I think they're the core three, but then branching off from that are obviously everyone's relationships unique. So they'll have their own things, depending on their own situation.
Yeah. I think
they're the holistic ones.
There are loads of things like value and principle alignment, schedule, all that kind of nuancy stuff that you can work. But I think you can work those things out, maybe.
Yeah, they're a lot of appendices there, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think support, actually, I would add. I would add mutual support into that. So there's 4. So
was that not come under? I think that's part of. I think that's a subcategory of effort.
Maybe.
Because again, it's putting effort in. It's showing willing.
Well, no, support of each individual person's pursuits of like whatever it is, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think that ultimately as you go through life and friends drop off, they don't drop off, but friends get their own relationship, all the rest of it. Your support system becomes your partner. So if you're trying to achieve something or whatever it is, and they don't support you, then it's fucking a problem, isn't it?
Yes.
Agreed. So I think that is that's another one that would add.
So we've got sexual attraction, honesty, effort, and support.
Yeah, we have to do posts about this.
Just to lock them in. Yeah, we'll just continue to post memes. That aligns more with my mentality.
I like that. Yeah. You've done well to stay serious so far today. It's good.
Yeah, well, don't worry. There's still time to relapse.
Good. Right.
To be fair, I got a lot out of my system with Josef Fritzl.
Yeah,
he was
true.
If he's given nothing else to society, he acted as a great pressure valve at the start of our podcast.
And he needs to be interviewed for Netflix. So
I thought you were going to say for the podcast then.
Fly to Austria. Listen, Joseph, we couldn't get Hitler in, so...
Guest number 1, Gary McNamara. Guest number 2, Josef Fritzl. That's a curveball, isn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that, would you? Get some views on YouTube. Like.
Yeah. So we've got the usual segments to round up now.
Yes. So underrated, overrated.
I feel like I think we came to conclusions as we went through the podcast. Then we need to summarise it because
I think we concluded each part, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Because if we start rounding up again now, we'll basically just do the entire podcast again.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So underrated, overrated.
It's either underrated.
You've charmed me.
Or it's overrated.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Should we do the obvious one first?
Yeah.
So this is a joint one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
new tonic. So mentioned at the start of the pod. Obviously, a new fucking venture, new drink. There's been loads of hype about it. What are your initial thoughts? Again, I've had it for a couple of days. So what's your initial thoughts?
Well, it's helped us gob off for the best part of 2 hours.
I genuinely feel real good.
Yes,
and this is the problem though, because it's super easy for it to be a placebo.
It could be.
But I mean, I don't know.
I normally feel burnt out because we've had, this is like you were saying earlier. Don't want to suck myself off. I wish I could.
But you wouldn't need a partner.
But this has been quite a serious podcast by our standards.
Yeah. So normally these take a lot of cerebral effort, but I don't feel bad. I feel good.
Feel pretty good.
And
it tastes good. I mean, this is purely anecdotal. I've had one about 2 hours ago. So, this isn't set in stone, but it tastes good. I feel good. And that's about it, really.
What-
That's what
what
you
else
want.
do you need?
That's what you want from a
So
drink.
it's about £2 a can, which isn't bad. If you think about like a Monster and if it's same, really.
Or like, so they've
Prime,
deliberately
whatever.
pitted themselves against Prime, haven't they?
Well,
And the,
yeah,
the
of course
price
they
of Prime took the piss
It at the
to
start,
start
it
with.
did, yeah.
So the fact that this is newly released and you can get it for £2 a can, he puts in good stead.
next day's delivery as well. Fantastic. So you buy them in cans of 12, but there's another flavour I'm yet to try. This one's pretty good, I would say. So I like the flavour. I will use it now instead of a coffee. So sometimes if I'm in the morning, I've got loads of programming to do. It's basically if you've got like a project to kind of focus in on, it's really, really useful. It's got a decent amount of caffeine, to be fair. It's got like 120 mgs, which is like more than a coffee.
I haven't really broken down what's in it yet.
No, so there's that. So there's about as much as like a espresso with another shot in, effectively. And there's loads of nootropics, so mushrooms basically, that improve kind of focus, memory recall, all that kind of thing, apparently. But supposedly, in comparison to other productivity drinks that are nootropic based, they taste gopping. So I don't know how they've done it with like this taste.
This tastes banging. You know what it tastes like? San Pellegrino lemonade.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It tastes exactly like that.
It's got no sugar in.
I said lemonade earlier, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It tastes like posh lemonade.
Yeah, and supposedly the orange one tastes like Fanta.
Perfect.
So I'm buzzing to try
Dream.
that. That'd be sick. So yeah, I'll keep having it. I think why not? I would use it sparingly. Like don't have like 6 a day like James Smith does, but have like 1 a day maybe. But
Or like say if you normally have like a lot of coffee throughout the day, mix it up and
or just switch it. Yeah,
have less coffee.
Because I feel better on that than I do coffee.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I need to have more of them to work out where I stand with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Initial impressions good.
I was sceptical, I will say, because they'd hammed it up for a long time.
Initially, when they announced it, I was pretty threaders, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Because I was expecting something like
game changing,
like you said, because they'd gobbed off about it for so long. But now that my initial kind of frustration has dissipated, at face value, I'm quite impressed by it.
And also, this is the first time we've podcasted on it, and so you tell us, was it good? Was it not?
Yeah,
so
for the 3 people that still listen to mine.
Anyway, so next bit. Are we going to do another one, or are we going to leave it?
You can cap it there, because we've gobbed off for ages, haven't we? We
Okay,
can just
so
do
we've
a
got a
joint
reason to
one
be
this
cheerful.
week.
Reasons to be cheerful.
Reasons to be cheerful.
We did have... Oh, yeah, the festive period.
Yes. Yeah, so Christmas is around the corner, people. What is it now? It's the 17th of...
We're in mid-November.
So it'll be 20th when this comes out, which means, fucking hell, 10 days away from Advent. So, speaking of, our little Christmas present to you is a hoofing podcast with he who must not be named.
Yeah. So basically the reason
the
to be
obvious.
cheerful is the festive period, but via the vehicle of the podcast. Basically, we've got a lot of exciting podcast plans over the festive period.
We have, and we've got to get him in because basically we're leaving the continent in the new year. So
Yeah, well, we can't confirm that yet, but it is looking that way. We don't want to shoot our shot too early. But basically, we've got some exciting guests to come before Christmas, which we won't announce because we don't want to jinx it. What we can confirm is we will be having a Christmas piss-up episode, effectively.
yeah, are we going to confirm that? Okay.
Yeah, we can confirm that because I've planned it. So.
Okay, cool. So we're going to have like a Christmas special, effectively, which will involve fancy dress.
It's going to be fancy dress, games,
and booze,
all the good shit. Basically.
all the good stuff. So we've been serious for a long time today, but that will be anything but. Let's just say that.
So basically, what we can do is we can tell you the amount of it, what each episode for the rest of the year is going to be. I think roughly.
Do you want to do that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Not as in like specific guests. So you
Okay.
can expect a few guest episodes, and then there will definitely be an end of year review.
Yes.
Where we go
through.
We go through each month and talk about highlights, what we've done, because there's so much to unpack there,
Loads.
and a
It's
lot
gonna
of
be long.
a lot of good dits that didn't make the podcast that we can go back and touch on.
Yeah.
We're going to do the Christmas special, which we just talked about, which is going to be a piss up, and then we're also going to steal the popular Big Fat Quiz of the Year format.
And we've got Jimmy Carr coming down to host. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, and we're going to do like a Big Fat Quiz of the Year kind of
spin-off.
A spin-off on that. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do it yet, but we might have to get like a guest. Not a ghost. That's a different episode altogether.
That was our Halloween special.
Yeah, we're going to exercise a poltergeist live on air. No, we might have to get like a guest host to be the quizmaster, and then we pit ourselves against each other.
Yes.
Or,
yeah.
I think that might, but we can
We'll
talk,
figure that out.
We'll figure that out. But basically, you've got three more episodes of us gobbing off, probably in fancy dress and drinking.
Yeah.
And then you've got a few guest episodes to look forward to.
So lovely stuff for the end of the year of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed that today, though. That was I thought that was pretty good.
That was it. We were on fine vein of form.
We were on form there. I like that.
Back to the early days of below
of
the bar.
preparation.
Yeah. Then we put effort in.
Yeah. So comment down below if you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts of any fucking bits and bobs that we've shared, and we'll see you next week.